Buying a home is one of the biggest investments that you will ever make, but it is also one of the easiest places to make very expensive mistakes. And today, I'm going to share some big mistakes that can cost you thousands, but I'm also going to tell you how you can avoid them. I'm Shawn Shackelton, your resource for all things real estate here in the Scottsdale and Phoenix market. Now, I know when people start to think about buying a house, the first thing they do is they go online and start looking at houses because, well, that's the exciting part. And this happens with first-time home buyers as well as seasoned buyers. But when you skip that pre-approval process, you are really kind of flying blind to what you can actually afford. And having that pre-approval letter is something that you need when you find the house that you'd like to make an offer on. And if you are not prepared with this and there are multiple offers on the house, this could mean the difference of getting the house and not getting the house. Now, something else I tell every single buyer when we're talking about this pre-approval letter is that if all you have done is look at a mortgage calculator, you could be missing a lot. The lender is going to look at everything you have financially, and you may be shocked at the interest rate that you can actually get versus what you found online, or that you can actually afford more than you thought and still end up paying the same mortgage every month. There are just so many variables, and this is a step in the process that you need to get done early. Now, as important as getting that pre-approval letter, there is one step you need to do before that. And this step could save you a lot of money. And that is making sure that you shop rates and lenders. See, different lenders have different rates, and they have different programs. And a small rate difference could mean a big savings over the lifetime of the loan. Now, it's pretty critical to select the lender before we get to the contract stage, because switching lenders in the middle of everything could cause delays and risk the entire deal if deadlines are not met. See, when we make an offer, we have to submit a pre-approval letter from one lender only. Now, I have had clients that are looking at two different lenders and they're not quite sure which one they're going to go with when we make the offer. In that case, I usually tell them that once the contract is accepted, you have about 2 days to make that switch if you'd like to, because the caveat in our contract is that although you can switch lenders, the new lender has to adhere to all the timelines in the contract or your money could be at risk, which I don't like risking anyone's money. Now, when it comes to actually starting to go and look at homes, there are a few things you need to be thinking about to avoid other costly mistakes, like ignoring the true cost of home ownership. See, there are additional costs that you need to be aware of when you're buying a home, like taxes, insurance, maintenance, and HOA fees if those are going to apply. Now, when you're talking to a lender, they should be helping you factor in the taxes and insurance so that you can understand what those numbers add to the final monthly payment. And if you're looking in an area where there's likely going to be an HOA, they should be factoring that in as well. Now, the maintenance of a home is going to be something that is different for every home, depending on the age and how well the home has been maintained. And this is something that your agent should be able to help you understand. And then after the inspection, you should have a much better picture of what type of maintenance is going to be needed, whether that be right away or ongoing. Now, even with all of this information, it is really important for you to start saving for anything that should come up unexpectedly. Because when you own a home, unfortunately, things break. And they seem to break at the most inconvenient times possible. I can tell you that we just replaced both of our air conditioning units. We were just outside talking to a neighbor who looked at us and said, "Oh, just replaced your air conditioners, did you?" And we said, "Yeah, we did." He said, "Man, we replaced ours about 8 years ago. And one unit, when one of their sons was graduating from high school, they were having a big party. It broke about a week before the graduation party. So they had to scurry and find an air conditioning company that could come and replace it. Then fast forward a few more years, and the other one did the exact same thing the week before their other son was graduating from high school, and another graduation party was there. So he said, be glad that you didn't have to do any of that, because unforeseen things happen like we were just talking about, and then it just adds all of this stress to you. And if you don't have the money saved, that's just more financial stress that no one needs. Now, speaking of inspections, this is something that should never be skipped, because if it is skipped, this could cost you thousands of dollars. Now, something that comes up in contracts every once in a while, and it's something that's very confusing to buyers, especially as it pertains to the inspection. And that's when they hear that a seller is selling the house as is. Oftentimes the buyer will immediately think, well, I don't want to buy that house because it's as is. I can't even do an inspection. And that is not true. If a home is being sold in as-is condition, the buyer still has the right to do any and all inspections that they would like to before they continue to move forward with the contract. What the as-is portion is saying to the buyer is that once you get your inspections back, the seller does not want a list of items that you're asking them to fix. They're telling you right now, I'm not fixing anything. Although you have the right to do your inspections, and if what you see on that inspection is not something that is agreeable to you, you can cancel and get your money back. But here's what you need to know. As the buyer, if you do an inspection and something major comes up on that inspection, things like the roof needs to be replaced, the pool equipment needs to be replaced, or there's mold in the house, even if the seller says no to you, they are now going to have to disclose that to any buyer in the future because now they know. And what oftentimes happens is that seller realizes they've got to fix it regardless. So they might fix some of the things that are major just for you to save the deal. So if you're a buyer and you see that the home is being sold as is and it's a home that you love, don't let that necessarily sway you from making an offer. Because the reality is that even though the seller has said that it's as is, they can always change their mind. Because if they don't change their mind, this is an area for sellers that they could lose a lot of money. If the home is not well maintained and all the major systems are functioning, can they still say that they won't fix it? They can. And our contract is already written as an as-is contract, so the seller is not required to fix anything. But like I said, most often they will, just to keep the contract together. Now, just like the pre-approval letter, there is something that needs to be thought about before you decide on a specific home to purchase. And it's one of the biggest mistakes that I see buyers make, and that is not taking into account what your life is going to look like 3 to 5 years from now. See, owning a home is a long-term investment, and people's needs change over time. When I see people make this mistake, they either end up selling their home sooner than they thought and lose money in the sale, or they end up needing to do renovations to the house, which also costs them money. Now, something else buyers need to be very careful of is only falling in love with the look of the house. Now, I know that sounds strange to say, because I really do want people to fall in love with the house that they buy and love the way that it feels. But you also have to make sure that everything else is functioning. Sellers have gotten really good at making their homes look like model homes, especially in some of our neighborhoods where flip homes are really prevalent. But what I have seen is that when you walk in and all the cosmetic things are done, new flooring, new cabinets, new countertops, bathroom vanities, and new appliances, buyers get really excited. And this is when I start looking at the age of the roof, the age of the air conditioning unit, how old is the hot water heater, and what about that pool equipment? You know, all those really unsexy things. Because it's great to have a home that has been remodeled and is beautiful on the inside. But if all of those other things still need to be addressed, you can spend well over $100,000 getting all of those things addressed or possibly replaced. And when all of the cosmetic things on the inside of a home are all done, the price does not reflect that the roof and the air conditioner and the water heater and all of those things still need to be replaced. They know that in the buyer's eyes, this looks like a magical dream house. So guess where the price goes? Up. Now, if you're paying attention to all of these things, another area you have to make sure you're paying attention to is the location of the home. Now, a good location means something different to everyone. So when I talk about a good location, I mean something that's not backing a busy road, that you can't see those huge power lines in eyesight of the house. And most people want to know that a grocery store or some other amenities are nearby and that you're close to good schools. The location of the home has a huge impact on the overall value of the home when you go to sell it. See, if you find a home that has a big objection and you're willing to overlook it because it looks like a value to you, when you go to sell it, you're going to have to find someone just like you that finds that the home is in a great location but maybe has a big objection, but because the price is a little bit lower than anything else in the neighborhood, they're willing to take on that objection. Because the only way to entice someone to buy a home that has some of these big objections is with price, which means you will never make as much money on your home when you go to sell it as anyone else in the neighborhood. And this is a way that I see homeowners lose money all the time. Now, one of the best ways to avoid any expensive mistakes when buying a home is knowing when to walk away. Now, this can be really hard for a buyer who has become so emotionally attached to a home that they just can't see that the right thing for them to do is walk away. And I also see this when people are feeling really rushed to buy a house. I have had a few clients that only had a short period of time to buy a house, close on it so that they can move in. And every time we would go out to look at homes, they felt as if they should be falling in love with one of the homes that we found. I can always tell when this is happening. And I would always say to them, don't settle. If you don't love the home, do not buy it. They would always feel really anxious because of their timeline, and I would tell them, be patient, I know it's scary, but we will find the home. If they listened to me and waited, we always found a home, and they would always look at me at the end and say, I am so glad we waited. I am so glad we were patient because we love this house. And that is what it should feel like. Now, if you want to see more about what homes you should absolutely not buy, make sure you take a look at this video. As always, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.